Okay, hello Dave.
Hello.
Here we are. We're not in your shed this week.
No, my
this
shed's
month.
having a rebuild.
Yeah, we're at Electronic Sounds studio, and we have on the surgeon's table the Juno 106. So
a very sad Juno 106 that sings along to itself. You can just hear that probably. There's a constant B going in the background. That is key of B rather than a buzz.
Right. Just above the traffic noise outside.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's there. Now it appears to be, if you turn off the VCA, it seems to go away. So it's probably a fault in the voltage controlled envelope circuit, because it's, I don't know if you can hear that, but there it's on and there it's. So it will be, it's basically letting through. I'm not 100% sure, but I imagine all these synths, they run a bass at a bass key, which is, and then they divide up from there. So I presume it runs at a bass key of B for some reason, and that's not meant to break through, but it's breaking through the VCA.
When you say it runs at, what is that?
You've got to have your oscillator. Generally, it runs. They run continuously, making a.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And then the note that actually comes out the far end is determined by, if you look inside, this is there'll be lots of resistors which divide up a table, usually in synths of this kind of age. Either that or a microprocessor chip that does the same thing, only with less components, and sadly less reliably. But yeah, your oscillator has to run at a frequency. It's the standard bass frequency that everybody works to is C. C is the common. So you would obviously want your oscillator to run a bit below that, so that you can go up to C and divide up.
So it's kind of like that actually takes you back to the original idea of an oscillator. You switch it on and just start creating a tone, and then you use the filters to change the tone.
Yeah, and then the envelope shapes turns it on and off, fades it in and out.
Well, never thought about it in that way.
Yeah.
So it's bleeding through somehow.
Yeah, it's somehow that bass. I think that's the problem, because again, if you turn up, it actually changes pitch as you change the range, and as you bring in the sub oscillator, it comes in. So it's actually, the fault is actually in the VCA circuit.
Well, we'll take a little look inside in a minute.
Yeah.
But, what else can you tell us about the Juno 106?
They're very nice. They're generally quite tough as long as you keep using them. There are two problems which this one doesn't appear to have. Is the oscillators are very strange. There are 6 of them. We'll look at those in a bit. But for some reason they encase them in this weird epoxy plastic solution, which over time, if it's not used for a long time, basically turns itself into a giant capacitor, which causes all kinds of, basically stops the oscillator working. So you end up with less and less notes. That's the expensive one to fit. Although there are alternatives these days. The other thing that goes wrong if you don't use them for a long time is it stops remembering presets.
Okay.
That's a cheap and easy one to fix, because the same. It's the same with the Juno 60s. The memory chip that's used to remember all those is the same as the ones in 1980s cash registers.
Oh yes.
So
we touched on the cash register.
Yeah,
before,
yeah.
Didn't we?
So so yes, you can actually, the average car boot sale will buy you a spare part for £1. It's so yeah, I suggest we have a look inside. Right, here we are. This is the inside. Nicely made, nicely laid out. These are the oscillators here in their black gunk. Someone has started producing a replacement board without the black gunk. Unfortunately, for some reason they made it so the pins don't fit, so you have to use an adapter socket in order, and it's much bigger, so they're a bit tricky to get. They also don't actually sound quite the same.
Oh, okay.
So they're very close. One classic way of repairing them is to take it out and soak it overnight in acetone, and then you can scrape off the black gunk on the outside, and that sometimes fixes them, but quite often doesn't. So sadly, the only real source of replacements is dead 106s. Yeah. Luckily, this doesn't seem to have that problem. The problem all seems to be in the, like I say, in the envelope generator, which is one of these chips here. I'm not entirely, without having me internet access here and me manuals, I can't really say exactly which one. It's either that pair or that pair. One of them does the envelope for the filter, and the other one does the envelope for the oscillator, and I can't remember which one is which offhand.
So is it a case of just replacing
it would be a quick question of replacing one of those chips, basically. None of which are particularly obscure,
right.
So they're I'm actually looking at probably quite a cheap repair.
All right.
So
unlike the last
it's
one,
a happy man.
Electronic Sound Studio.
Yeah, it's that could be. The other possibility is the chip might be perfectly okay, and one of this array of capacitors has gone down. But they're good quality capacitors, and they're not the kind that go down usually. So it could, which would be an even cheaper repair. But I don't think you'll be that lucky. So yeah, no bees in it. We did find some flies, but no bees. So yeah, it should live. This key needs a bit of a...
Of course it does. Oh my gosh, Dave! What have you done?
So luckily I do have a dead 106 for spares, so I can replace
That's
that.
Because we need the black notes.
Yeah.
They're the saddest of all keys.
What's life without an F sharp? Yeah.
History of the Juno 106. Let's talk about the history.
The history of the
Juno
Juno
106.
106.
So this was the first... No, it wasn't. We had this conversation earlier, wasn't it? It wasn't the first MIDI one. It
wasn't the first, no. The 60 was the first MIDI one.
And the 60 was the one that came out...
Yeah,
before,
the 60...
The 60 then this.
Yeah. Yeah, the 60... first there was the Juno 6, which had no MIDI and no presets. That was basically a pure analog synth.
Lovely synthesizer.
Then came the 60, which was my favourite, to be honest. The 106 was meant to be an upgrade, basically a Juno 60 with more bits, but they do sound completely different.
Does the 60 have the digitally controlled oscillators as well? Or
yeah,
what?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. But it's not this. They're the different oscillators. They basically use the same oscillator as the SH101. Only 6 of them. You know. So this was meant to be an improved oscillator. But well, to be fair, they can't really. This problem with the plastic coating going capacitive, it takes about 30 years.
Right.
To happen, so it's probably not fair to kind of blame them for not predicting that, because it takes a long time.
And are there certain conditions under which that's more likely to happen?
If it's not used much, it's actually not using it a lot, and then suddenly using it a lot, suddenly rediscovering it in the attic.
Yeah.
It's the same with all early synths. If you find one in the attic, don't just plug it in and start using it full on straight away.
So they have to condition the capacitors.
Yes. If you know someone who knows about such things, kind of consult them. But a general rule is, I mean, it's probably being over safe, but the general rule is to plug it in, switch it on and off, and then leave it for 24 hours.
Okay.
And then the next day, put it on for 5-10 minutes, have a little play, and then switch it off, and gradually build up, and that kind of.
So if you pick one up in a car boot or something, not likely.
Yeah,
So it's
If you don't know, it's surprising. And the other thing is, if as part of that process something starts going a bit weird, again, switch it off immediately and just leave it 24 hours before switching it, because that will, if it is a capacitor problem, that will quite often sort it out for you.
So how much do these fetch these days?
These fetch a lot of money.
Right.
I can't remember if I told you how much, it would be more by tomorrow. I mean, they are really highly sought after. These and the 60s, all the Junos, all the old Junos, they really are a classic sought after synth. And to my mind, one of the few of the type that are actually worth it.
Right.
They are beautifully made, lovely sound. They very rarely go wrong. If you want to travel, if you want to gig using an old synth, these or the 60s, they were designed for road use, and they are so solid.
Well, certainly this one did several British tours.
Yeah.
Went to Poland, didn't it, before the Iron Curtain went down, I think?
Yeah.
Seen a few things.
But yeah, there's nothing wrong with this. A quick hoover of the inside and sort out that, and it'll be fine.